Hello, my name's Michael Conneely, and this video and its associated blog are about how to work with Saturn when he's super powerful in his standing in the heavens, as he is at the time of filming. So it's about understanding Saturn. And actually it's an add-on to our astrology and healing newsletter for September 2020, although the contents apply to working with Saturn at any time. And do note that as a special resource, the charts and ephemeris for each month are on my monthly page on my Star Wheel Astrology website. And so you can see the ephemeris in Vedic and Western astrology, the lunations, the eclipse dates, charts for beginning and end of the month, all that sort of thing. Right. So just to say that at the time of filming, Saturn actually spends the whole of September at 1 degree Vedic Capricorn. And Saturn actually transits his own sign, the sign he rules, Vedic Capricorn, until the 29th of April 2022. So Saturn is strong here in Vedic Capricorn. And I feel he's especially strong now in his demands for hard work, duty, commitment, especially to the life area which is the house that is Capricorn in our Vedic birth chart. Hard work, patience and diligence. Paying off our karmic dues, being sorry for the mistakes we made in our life. Dealing with sadness and frustration and even death. All of which, if we respond dutifully to, will lead us to positive karmic reaping in this life, for us in this life. And for me at least, although I know this doesn't apply to everyone, I find during this time of Saturn strength and Saturn retrograde at the moment, time seems to be going so much more slowly. Everything seems to take longer and longer to do. At least that's my personal experience. And by introduction, I make the note that this transit of Saturn is obviously extra hard for people who are in Sade Sate, so I hope this film will be useful to them. And that is if you have your moon in one of the following Vedic signs: Sagittarius, Capricorn especially, and Aquarius. And by the way, it's not so easy for Cancer moon or ascendants, because Saturn casts a 7th house aspect, an opposition from Capricorn to Cancer. So note which house in your Vedic birth chart Capricorn is. This is probably the area in your life where the Saturn hard-earned blessing and golden reaping must be sought for. But of course also look at what houses in your chart the Saturn rule signs are. So which houses in your chart are Capricorn and Aquarius. Now, in terms of the nakshatras, the wonderful, utterly wonderful 27-sign lunar zodiac of Vedic astrology, which so supremely states our emotionally based our emotionally based consciousness, warts and all, with the divine possibility of minimizing the negative bits and maximizing the positive potentials. Saturn is currently in Uttarashada Nakshatra. So he's in the second pada of Uttarashada, and that is actually the Capricorn pada. So double whammy there. And it's also Vargotamous, so if you are experiencing Saturn at this degree very strongly, and maybe are in Sadhisati at this time, there could well be the possibility for very special inspiration and soul messages, because Saturn is in Vargotama status now. So the emphasis here during this high dignity, high strength Saturn transit is quite strongly on concrete achievement. Nerves of steel may be needed, maybe. Overcoming the blocks is definitely needed. So with diligence, we have to fight the slowness Saturn may impose on us during his retrograde. And at the same time, on a different dimension, this Saturn transit also highlights worldly power structures, because Saturn is indicative of structures, and you have to remember that Saturn is at this time part of a 3-planet conjunction, the other two being Jupiter and Pluto, which together smash against structures which may be inappropriate. Now note that Saturn is retrograde until the 29th of September 2020, when he turns direct. And in this month of September, it's actually a special case, because not only is Saturn moving very slowly with all the implications that brings, but 3 planets are moving so slowly that they say in the same degree for a long time, all month. And these are Saturn, Neptune and Pluto. So do check out what is happening with me in the super powerful Saturn energies this month. What is happening with me in the super powerful Neptune energies this month? What is happening with me in the super powerful death and rebirth and shadow potential of Pluto this month? And by the way, in the Western tropical zodiac, this is Saturn at 25 degrees Capricorn. So let's look a bit deeper at understanding Saturn retrograde. So Saturn's retrograde till the 29th of September. And Saturn is actually retrograde from May to September in 2020, so quite a long time. And as I said, he forms part of a vast and utterly powerful 3-planet conjunction with Pluto and Jupiter this year. So a major question now is, what energy does Saturn retrograde bring to our lives? What energy is it bringing? Stop to identify it. And then ask, how do we need to understand it? A huge, important question. And then ask, how can we handle it? And then ask what healing and empowerment we might need. And then ask, what effect will this have on the society you live in? So these are key questions, because Saturn is so super powerful now. And he's so super powerful because he's transiting his own sign, Capricorn, and because he's part of that totally exceptional, rare, huge conjunction with Jupiter-Pluto. And of course, also, other vast, exceptional energy transits are going on at this particular time, in this particular year. So, Saturn and Pluto are conjunct all August. Saturn and Jupiter are conjunct. Jupiter and Pluto were conjunct in April and will be again in November. You know, we're talking about exact conjunctions there. And as I said, to see the charts and ephemeris for each month in 2020, go to my 2020 Star Wheel Astrology website, and from there you can click on the page for each month's astrology charts, a wonderful display. Now, notice, as I said, that in terms of the vastly sure and declarative nakshatras, Saturn is transiting all this year in Uttarashadha nakshatra. And I do have a video and a blog presenting some detail on each of the nakshatras, and there's a list of the links for those in my Star Wheel Astrology website. So, what point I want to move on to next is that, like each planet, Saturn has a divine nature, and the effects and manifestations of Saturn's divine nature can be named and defined, and we must seek to understand it. So basically, Saturn's nature is that he lays necessary requirements for our discipline, hard work. And he requires of us endurance and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. If we can satisfy his conditions and learn things about our baggage which might prevent us satisfying his conditions and heal those, well, we will experience golden reaping. His roots are those of an agricultural deity, after all. But we humans, the trouble is, can be so definite about our worldview, particularly as it was inculcated into us in our childhood or from our church or from our society. And we can be so sure of the correctness of our view of ourself and our understanding of ourself and life purpose, that actually we cannot see the cosmic and right directions of Lord Shani, Saturn, Lord of Karma. And if this is the case, as it so often is for us humans, well then what actually happens is we experience suffering and grief. But this is only because we're clinging to our prison walls. And in fact, we should no longer inhabit those prisons. We're only still living in them simply because we are failing to embrace the needed bigger perception and right life for us personally in this incarnation. So, when Saturn is retrograde, its imperative demand on us grows in power. Time slows down. Saturn can wrongly be understood as cruel and punitive because it is an utterly all-encompassing power in our life. But during Saturn retrograde periods, I think you'll find we're made to finish off unfinished projects and demands, even starting something new if it was left unfinished, in previous operations within our life, left unfinished. So Saturn says, finish it now. There may be a feeling of sadness, and this is because of the austerity and power of Saturn demands that can cut us off from pleasure that we would like to seek. Saturn can wrongly be understood as cruel and punitive, and be seen as just the ugliest significator of depression, death and poverty and separation in human life. But what we absolutely have to do, what we're born to do, is learn to see his divine face behind the worldly show we experience, until we develop more spiritual awareness. And so, depending on the house in your chart, at this sort of strength and retrograde time of Saturn, for example, there could be a death in your circle, particularly if Saturn's in the 7th or the 2nd house, the death-dealing houses, the Maraka houses. So, Saturn causes contraction and destruction, but this is only so that we can complete our tasks and so that we can solidify our perception. And so he can require us to complete our duties now and our tasks now, and probably or possibly take on board the fact of death. we each do need to develop a realization of what death is if we are to understand life. And we need to develop a better awareness of where we're over-attached to this material world. And crucially, we do need to find out how and where we're blinded to the light now. Blinded to the light, blinded to the divine connection. So Saturn will delay things and withhold all of this to make sure we do make our needed learning and become less blinded to the light. What a wonderful phrase. Saturn energy can lead us to feel depression, self-pity, worry, anxiety and fear, feeling of self-weakness. But that's only because we as a human are failing to develop the beauty of the divine connection in our present situation, however tough it is. Because we're failing to see and understand the utter and terminal truth, the truths of our present incarnation in this material world, and how Saturn's energy is actually manifesting and directing us in this time in our life. Saturn's lessons are probably the most difficult, but are most rewarding if we can rise to them. Saturn offers meditation, meditative awareness. Saturn offers the chance to develop the way of transcendence, the crucially needed divine perception that we each need to learn to bring when we are viewing and managing ourself, our egoic self in this life, so that we can minimize the negative bits, so that we can maximize the special sparks of achievement that we incarnated to perfect in this lifetime, as defined by our incarnational life purpose and our Atmakarika planet, for example, and our Navamsha chart. In this way, we can live the fullest and longest life. In this way, we can live the life that's most in harmony with our incarnational life purpose, which Saturn ever compels us to face, and compels us to face most strongly at a time when he's in such good dignity and strength as he is now in Vedic Capricorn. And we can say no to his call only at our peril. Now, I feel that the combination of Vedic astrology with Western psychodynamic astrology and Western evolutionary astrology actually is needed. I don't believe you can develop the very best astrological perception just with Vedic astrology or just with Western astrology. The combination is needed because not only are we beings on a karmic incarnational life purpose path, we're also psychological beings, and we have to understand that because it's part of our spiritual fulfillment. The best astrological declaration needs to be to combine the two. So have an astrology reading from me, because I feel I always wonderfully combine the two. But then each of us must go on to ask the next questions. Do I need to change the way I see things and how I understand my nature and my life? What am I going to do about it? Empowerment. How can these transits and conjunctions help me come into my own power, the fullness of me? And by the way, Saturn is a prime indicator of the baggage we bring to love and relationship. We need to develop clear perception of our baggage. We need to heal it. Otherwise we wreck our relationships and harm those we seek to love. And again, you can get a reading from me as to your love profile, declared by both Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So, we also need to, sorry, I've lost the place, develop good perception into what we're experiencing in our lives natally as per our destiny, our incarnational life purpose, and predictively the present phase. But all of this only has any real value if it's done with the prime aim of actually learning to transcend our earthly scripts, learning to transcend our egoic self in life. Yes, we have to live the scripts, the energies and the transits, but we also have to come to the point, hopefully now, where we remember that we are a divine being, where we come to the point where we develop perception of the divine nature of ourself and of the planets and what they bring to the earth, to communities and to us as individuals. We need to come to the point where we use our navigation of the energies to more greatly fulfill our incarnational life purpose at this time and act more according to our divine nature, ever achieving better oneness with the divine, which is the great achievement and purpose of our human life. So I make the point that each person will experience the energy of Saturn differently depending on their script for Saturn in this life. And this is expressed by Saturn's placement, for example, in sign, house and aspects in the birth chart. These are the prime filters through which we view, understand and connect to the divine nature of each planet, sign, house and aspect. And of course Vedic